Okay. I think maybe what I need to do is just have a good cry before I get this thing started. Can you hear me? Okay, now you got me. It has been one of those days, folks. It's been one of those days that you just want to like make up new cuss words that nobody's ever thought of before. And I'll spare you all the wonderful things that have happened to me today. Well, some of them anyway. Thanks, Crutch. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. I have to break this whole setup down and reconfigure it all on the fly in between live hits. So when I do a live hit, I've got to change everything and then put it all back together. And there's a lot of moving parts. So please forgive me. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and tell you what was the big explosion? That was me connecting my microphone to the camera. It was not a big explosion. That was just me connecting my microphone. Thank you for watching, folks. I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm just a dolt sometimes and didn't quite get all these things, all the moving parts right before we went live. So, where was I? Now, let's talk about the rocket attacks that are taking place in Israel. There have been, the skies over Israel have been pretty busy today. After just yesterday, I was talking about that they have seen the number of rocket attacks coming out of Gaza going down. Today, we had a very large barrage coming in from Gaza over Tel Aviv. And I wonder if I can show, I usually try to show you what it looks like on my app here. This is Tel Aviv right there, if you can see that. See if I can get it to focus on that. The red areas are areas that are under rocket threat. And that's just Tel Aviv. There was actually a bunch over Ashdod. Let's see how many. As of 4 hours ago, there's probably 15 separate attacks coming out of Gaza. So the IDF is making great strides. I mean, they're making progress every day. And so you would think that those rocket attacks would start going down pretty precipitously at some point, but apparently not yet. Let's hope that tomorrow will be, the day, right? Can you guys hear me? I still have somebody that says they can't hear me. No? Okay. Do we think that Hamas is in southern Gaza? Well, yes, of course they're in southern Gaza, Jeremy. Hamas is not, they did not just stay in northern Gaza knowing that the IDF was coming in. They likely moved most of their operations to southern Gaza. There are a lot of tunnels in southern Gaza too. And this is one of the things that you're not hearing about in the news, that once the IDF finishes with northern Gaza, which could take months, they still have to figure out what to do with southern Gaza. And that's going to be the more difficult challenge because it's got, a couple million people crammed in down there. And they can't just leave it alone because there are rockets and that they can fire from southern Gaza as well. One of the objectives that the IDF put forward for this war is to create a buffer between them and the Palestinians. So they may not let people back into the entirety of northern Gaza. I don't know. They have all but demolished most of the structures that were very close to the northern border of Gaza already. And very little of that is going to be inhabitable when they get done with it. There's not going to be any power, there's not going to be any water, the infrastructure is going to be wrecked. And I don't think that the IDF is doing that by accident. I think that they have a very specific plan. It's part of their plan to create a buffer between them and the Palestinians, because they are just done. They're just tired of having this happen over and over again. So when they get done with northern Gaza, they're going to have to turn south, and they're going to have to figure out what to do. But for the time being, they are opening up humanitarian corridors and they said yesterday, 50,000 people fled out of northern Gaza. What were those people doing there? Well, Hamas was not letting them leave, or they simply wanted to stay. And now that they're leaving, you can be absolutely sure that Hamas has fighters in that group of quote-unquote civilians that are taking advantage of the humanitarian corridors to get out of northern Gaza and move south. You could also probably say that there are going to be some of the hostages in that group as well. They are probably smuggling hostages to the south too. And it could very well be that we don't see a lot of hostages being rescued in northern Gaza because they've all been moved to southern Gaza. That is, I mean, what would you do if you were Hamas? You wouldn't leave your people in northern Gaza knowing you're about to lose it. So they're moving all the assets they can to the south. And they have tunnels to do that too. So they're most likely moving them through the tunnels. Now, one thing that I didn't see a lot on the news that is pretty cool is that the IDF took over a mosque in northern Gaza, and they, kind of requisitioned the loudspeaker system on the mosque that normally plays the call to prayer, the Muslim call to prayer, and they played I think they call it the Shema, which is the prayer that is sung on Shabbat, I believe. I'm not, some of you probably know a lot more. I've got a lot of people that are Jews that are watching this, but it's a song, it's a prayer that is sung, and everybody's familiar with it. It's not the national anthem, but it's kind of like, a very patriotic song, I'd say, for the Jews. And they blasted that song out from this mosque in northern Gaza because they want any hostages that are within earshot to know, we're coming for you. We're going to come rescue you. And that's pretty cool. I'm sure the Muslims were not real happy about their mosque being used in that way, but tough. Maybe don't butcher babies, and you don't have to have that happen to your mosque. So that's what's happening in Gaza. But even with all of the fighting that's taking place down there, all the air assets that Israel has flying over Gaza at all times right now, they are still able to be firing lots and lots of rockets out of Gaza, which is just amazing to me. So we had dozens and dozens of them coming into Tel Aviv right before sundown, and 2 people were injured, not by the rockets themselves. I mean, the rockets didn't impact, but they were taken down by the Iron Dome system, and the debris from the Iron Dome system rained down on Tel Aviv. Some of those pieces, I saw pictures, were like as long as a car, they're big, and people got hit by those and injured by them. So if the rockets are coming in, you can't just trust that the Iron Dome system is going to shoot them down and you'll be fine, because they don't vaporize those things. They just stop them from exploding in your house. They do fall down and into pieces, and I have a piece of one of those rockets right here. I don't think I've shown this to you before, but this is a fin off of one of those rockets, and it's steel of some sort and pretty dangerous, and that's a small piece. Imagine if this thing was the size of a small car and what it would do to you. So it's kind of disheartening, actually, to think here we are more than a month into this war. They've been bombing the heck out of Gaza the whole time. More than a week into the ground invasion, they have troops. They've encircled Gaza City. They have troops in the center of Gaza City. They've surrounded the Shifa hospital in Gaza City. So they are fighting on all fronts there. And yet Hamas is still able to fire all those rockets. It's just mind-blowing. On top of that, in the city of Eilat today, where the city of Eilat is way down in the south of Israel. I have a map here I think I can show you. Well, this is okay, there's a map of Israel. If you look down in the bottom of that map, right where the Red Sea is, that blue lake, it looks like a lake or something, down at the very, very bottom of the map, where Israel comes to a point, that is Eilat. And it's a resort town, really beautiful. And they had a kamikaze drone. They've been having drone attacks there for a couple days, but today a kamikaze drone came in there and hit a school. And this is what the wreckage of that looked like. That school was, fortunately didn't have students in it. The students down there can't go to school. And so nobody was injured, but it did cause a lot of panic attacks and PTSD, because a lot of the people down there are those who survived the attacks from October 7th. And they're down there trying to, recover and get better. So they've determined that the drone, the kamikaze drone that hit that school, came out of Iraq. And that would mean that it was fired by the militias that are backed by Iran, the Iraqi militias that are attacking not only Israel, but also our troops in Syria. So very near the border between Iraq and Syria, right on the Euphrates River. If you go just a few miles into Syria, you come to Deir ez-Zor. Deir ez-Zor is well known in history because it was the final resting place of many Armenians who were killed in the Armenian genocide. But it also ended up being the last stand of ISIS as a caliphate. And that's where the ISIS caliphate fell. I was there. And we went to the U.S. base there called Green Village one night. I think I told that story a few days ago, how the special ops troops that were stationed at Green Village were very, very surprised to see the Free Burma Rangers come rolling in there. And we had women and children and a bunch of civilian vehicles and a bunch of us all carrying weapons, and they didn't know who we were, and they were kind of freaked out by the fact that we just showed up at their secret military base out there in a very remote part of Syria, the Syrian desert. But, that base has been attacked near constantly since, over the last few days. Now, the Biden administration directed the Pentagon to strike an Iranian arms depot, the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, apparently had an arms cache at the airport or near the airport in Deir ez-Zor. Thank you, Michelle. The arms warehouse was destroyed in that airstrike, and then the volume of attacks against the U.S. base increased after that. So things are escalating in Syria. Now, we have at that base a small number of special forces or special operations troops, probably a bunch of Rangers and some SEALs and maybe Delta Force and things like that. And that base is fairly vulnerable if it weren't for the fact that we have all the air support and things like that. That's one of the reasons why the Biden administration was trying to push Israel to hold off on the invasion of Gaza, because they were rushing to get more air defense and stuff into that base. Well, apparently they still don't have enough, because we've had more than 40 troops injured in those rocket attacks. And, those rocket attacks, you have warning. And so it's not like they don't know that they're coming either. I want to play for you a video from my friend Dave Eubank of the Free Burma Rangers, who is currently there right now at that base. He's there with a team of Rangers, Free Burma Rangers. That's kind of confusing. You have U.S. Army Rangers, who are active duty Army personnel, Special Operations Unit, that I was a part of 100 years ago. They're there probably at the base. The Free Burma Rangers is a humanitarian aid organization that was started by Dave Eubank, who served in the Army Rangers with me. So are you confused yet? The Free Burma Rangers has been around for more than 20 years, and they started in Burma or Myanmar, helping people out there. And basically it just exists to help people in their time of need in the middle of the war zone. So it addresses what's known as the humanitarian gap. In every war zone, there's a gap between the place where people are getting shot and the place where they can get some help, like a hospital or something. And the Free Burma Rangers goes into that gap to transport people from the front lines to the place where they can get some help. And we try to keep them alive along the way. We do that because we have a bunch of medics and we have some ambulances that are armored, and we go in there to the places where, you know, a lot of humanitarian aid organizations and NGOs and stuff, their policies won't allow them to go into places like that because it's just too dangerous. But we go in, and the difference is that we go in armed, not to fight. Our intent is never to go to fight, but we do carry weapons to defend ourselves if we're attacked, because one of the tenets of the Free Burma Rangers is I will not run if the people can't run. So if the people we're there to help are unable to get away, then we're going to stay and fight for them to try to defend them until we can break contact and get them out of there, help them escape. Now, I want to show you a video, because if you're not familiar with the Free Burma Rangers, this will give you a sense in like a 1-minute video. It'll give you an idea of who the Free Burma Rangers are and who Dave Eubank is. Dave Eubank is the founder of the Free Burma Rangers. And during the fight for Mosul, to retake Mosul from ISIS, back in like 2017, I think, Dave made a very dramatic rescue of a little Iraqi girl who was needed to be rescued. Her family was murdered as they were trying to escape from ISIS. ISIS had their family pinned down. They shot the adults, and the little girl was the only one left. And she was hiding under her dead mother's burqa for like 3 days. No water, no food, in the hot sun. And if she wandered out from behind this little low wall, she was going to get killed, just like everybody else that was in that area that was getting killed. So there was just a pile of bodies because the snipers, the ISIS snipers had been picking them off. There's a bunch of Chechen ISIS guys that were hiding in a hospital in Mosul and were just killing anybody in this area. And so Dave saw this little girl from far away and said, I've got to save her. How am I going to do this? He finally was able to get an Iraqi tank to go up there, but the Iraqi tank was under heavy fire, and there was so much volume of fire coming between the tank and this girl. Dave said, I knew I was going to die when I decided to try to save her. But I couldn't just watch this girl get killed. I had to do something. And so I knew my family, or his family was there watching from far away. They had binoculars and they were watching this take place. And Dave just said, I knew that if I died, my family would understand. It was worth it to try to save this little girl. So this video is a very viral video, very well-known video. And you may have seen it before, but especially if you've seen the movie that came out about the Free Burma Rangers. But I want to show it to you for those of you that haven't seen it, to help you understand who we are, who the Free Burma Rangers are, and So that is Dave Eubank of the Free Burma Rangers. I've been working with the Free Burma Rangers for about 14 years. I've been on many missions with them, and I go in as an ambulance driver, and then I take my iPhone and I do some reporting while I'm there. By doing it that way, I can get into places where a journalist typically wouldn't be allowed to go. So we're going as a humanitarian, and I can feel like I'm doing more than just telling the story. I can actually contribute while I'm there. I'm not just there to film, but to try to make a difference. Now, the Free Burma Rangers are in Syria right now, and so I'm going to show you the video that Dave Eubank sent me today of him and his wife, because he always takes his family with him into the war zone. And so they're there trying to sleep this morning as the sun was coming up. He's filming as his wife is sleeping in her body armor in a sleeping bag on the ground up against the outside of the base. Take a look at this.
Rockets just came in. Thank you. There's more. Thank you, Angel Armor. We're laying here with your Angel Armor on. Karen?
Yeah.
Can I see your Angel Armor? You want to say anything to our Angel Armor people?
Thank you, Angel Armor. Yes, I have huge appreciation for your investment in our family and for keeping me with my warm Angel Armor. It keeps me warm too. We've been trying to sleep through this, so thank you so much. God bless you in all of your study and development and all of your lives and your family and all those who are protected by your stuff. It's great.
Amen.
Amen.
Lord, please keep protecting us. And I got mine right here next to me. I had it on, but trying to sleep. Whoa. I guess I better put it on.
Thank you. Boy, I sure see the comments blow up when there's no sound. So that is that's Dave Eubank of the Free Burma Rangers. And it is, mic check, thank you. Okay, yeah, all right, we got it. That's my friend Dave Eubank and his wife, Karen. They are currently under fire. And those are our troops inside that base. So please pray for our troops who are under fire in Syria and in Iraq. And maybe call your congressman and demand that the United States lip read. Yeah, no, hopefully you don't have to lip read, Pilgrim. Demand that that the Pentagon take a more forceful approach in responding to these attacks. We are allowing U.S. troops to be attacked on a daily basis as they're there trying to root out the remnants of ISIS. And our response has been somewhat lackluster, to say the least, as a nation, the United States. That's my opinion. But I feel like, we've basically struck back twice. Once we blew up an empty warehouse. Yesterday we blew up a full warehouse, but blowing up warehouses is apparently not going to discourage these people. We need to start going hard against these guys, I think, if we're going to protect our people. Do we still have no sound? There are some people who say no sound, but I think their comments are behind. It's a little slow. Sometimes the comments are delayed, I think, coming through. But so anyway, that's what's happening in Syria. So not only is Tel Aviv under attack, Eilat is under attack, but our own troops in Iraq and Syria are under attack. And that's a really bad thing. Now, let's move on to the West Bank, or as we call it, Judea and Samaria. I was there yesterday. Many of you recommended that I go up, I guess, go north and interview these American cowboys who were there. They've come over at their own expense from around the United States, and they came over to help Israeli farmers harvest their crops, because there are a lot of crops, as you've heard me talk about before, that are just rotting on the tree, on the vine, because the contract workers that were supposed to harvest them have all gone back to Thailand or wherever they were from, the Philippines or whatever, once the war started. So these American cowboys decided to do what they can to try to help, and they've come over to help harvest the crops and do whatever else they can do to support and encourage the people here in Israel. So yesterday I drove out to the border with Jordan in the West Bank, but literally right on the fence. I actually got in trouble driving because my Google Maps is trying to kill me. I have to say, Google Maps, man, like it just faithfully takes you the shortest, best route, but it doesn't think about the fact that it might be through a slum or through a place, especially around here. There are lots of roads. It might be the shortest route, but it's the shortest route to get killed on too. And so it took me on this dirt road out to this field, which turned out to be the kind of the road along the border fence, which apparently I'm not supposed to be driving on. And so on my way back out, I got stopped by the IDF, and they were like, "Get out of here!" And I was like, "I'm trying." So went out there and interviewed some of these cowboys. Now I'm going to play some of their interviews for you. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. You're going to need to turn your volume up because this is raw, uncut footage. I'm actually finishing the CBN News package about it right now, or as soon as I get done on this live. But this is the raw footage, which the sound is much lower on. And so you're going to have to turn your sound way up to hear what they have to say. But I think it's worth listening to a little bit of what they had to say to get a sense what's going on with them. Here's one of them. Here we go. Turn your sound up.
Sure. Yeah. So we've been here for 20 years serving in the Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria. Everybody's asking why here. There's the Gaza front, the north, the farmers on these ends is really what the world is knowing about. The fact is that the farmers here in Judea and Samaria are also suffering, very, very much so. The Thai workers, which is the workers that are coming in from abroad that do most of the work here, and including all the guys and gals that have been pulled up into reserve, the farmers here are suffering big time. So because we've worked in this area for 20 years, obviously we're not going to leave our farmers. We've got 120 farmers in this region that we've helped. So obviously these guys are the guys we're helping. So the cowboys were on their way to come help, and somebody caught them on the way in and took a picture, and it went totally viral. So now I don't think there's an Israeli in the country that doesn't know about the cowboys. But literally, we're staying to task. We've got farms. We're picking zucchini here right now. If we don't pick these things, they're going to rot, right? We have to pick them. We're helping the farm. We put a fence up today around this area, keep the pigs out.
Man, when I turn it down so you can hear the video, I have to turn it back up again when I switch it back, and I forget. I'm sorry about that. Okay, we have sound. So that was Joshua Waller, who is a part of the group of Americans that moved here like 20 years ago called HaYovel. And I was out with them the week before last, I guess, and they are amazing group of people. There are several families that live there in the West Bank, surrounded by angry Arabs, and they are doing their best to support the Israelis in that area and help the farmers as much as they can. So they're the ones who made the call to the cowboys from the United States to bring them over, and they are trying to help out. They're taking them around to these small mom and pop farms and helping them harvest their stuff, okay? Carlos, we'll go get some coffee sometime. That'd be great. So who has a question? You think there will be an awakening of sleeper cells worldwide when Hezbollah goes offensive? I was talking yesterday about the fact that I believe there are sleeper cells all over the world, but especially in the Western Hemisphere. Hezbollah has a huge presence in Latin America, specifically in Venezuela and Argentina, in that tri-border area, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, maybe. And they have training camps down there. They have businesses there. They're involved in the drug trade, human trafficking. There's this whole thing they do with like buying used cars in Latin America and shipping them over to Lebanon and then selling them over there for a profit and stuff. And then all that profit goes to pay for their terror attacks and things like that. The former vice president of Venezuela is a Hezbollah spokesman. I think it's a foregone conclusion that we will see more anti-Semitic attacks and anti-American attacks around the world, and that's going to happen. I mean, the extremist Muslims are very stirred up right now about what's happening between Israel and Gaza. And, you know, you ever think about the fact that they don't even, like, what did they think Israel was going to do? They're all angry at Israel for attacking Gaza. What did they think Israel was going to do? Did they think Israel was going to take 1,400 murdered and just sit back and go, oh, I guess we'll just not do anything? No, right? I mean, they are doing what would Hezbollah have done? What would Hamas have done if a bunch of Israeli civilians had flooded into Gaza and started cutting babies' heads off, right? I mean, turn the tables here. So I think it's not surprising that Israel is doing what they're doing, but all these leftists and people in the United States that are protesting on college campuses and stuff are acting like Israel should not retaliate. It doesn't make any sense. So, yes, I think we're going to see more attacks. We're going to probably see attacks in the United States. They just foiled an attack in Brazil yesterday. The Mossad helped the Brazilian special operations guys, or you know, special police, whatever, take down a Hezbollah cell that was planning attacks on Israeli or Jewish sites and people in Brazil. So yes, it's happening. It's going to happen. Wait for it to happen in Europe. I mean, we saw that guy get killed at in Los Angeles. A Jewish guy was beat over the head with a megaphone and killed at a protest in LA just a couple days ago. So yes, this no question. The whole world is kind of up, is burning up right now. In the West Bank, where I was yesterday, it's happening as well. Right, I don't know, maybe 10 miles as the crow flies from where these American cowboys were harvesting these crops, there were several attacks. There were a couple of Israelis that were shot, and they're going to survive, but they were shot just going about their business near their settlement where they live. In Jenin, which is not far from there, there was a running gun battle that went for 9 hours yesterday. 14, they say so far, 14 guys were killed. These are not Israelis, these are Palestinians. 14 Palestinians were killed. And you're hearing about, you know, in the news is choosing to report it like the Israelis are going in there for no reason and just shooting children. Well, the people that are getting shot, the media is calling them children because they're under 21 years old, but they're 18, 19, 20 years old. They're military-age males. And they're fighting, they're getting killed because they're shooting at the IDF. They're attacking the IDF. And we have video of this. The other thing I want you to notice is that there are these guys in orange vests who are supposed to be medics. And they're so, they wear these vests so the IDF won't shoot them because they're just there to help people that are wounded. They're just there to treat the wounded, that's all, right? They're non-combatants, so they can't be shot. Well, I want you to watch what this medic does when one of those children who's 19 or 20 years old gets shot. I want you to watch this. I've got this turned down a little bit. So here's the medic. He runs across to the guy that got shot, and he doesn't treat the wounded guy. What he does is he takes his weapon off of him and runs over. He trips right here. He runs over and then hands that weapon to another child, another young person who's a teenager, and that guy starts shooting at the IDF again, right over the head of this medic. Not very safe. So let's just watch that again, shall we? Here's this medic. He runs over to the wounded man, who again is no child. He takes his gun from him, does not treat the guy's wounds, and runs over and hands the gun to another fighter who then uses that gun to shoot back and to shoot at the IDF. Right over this guy's head. That poor guy, I hope he's wearing earplugs because that's super loud right there. So that's what's happening in Jenin yesterday. Now, so far the IDF has arrested more than 1,500 people in the West Bank. And they don't just go in there and go house to house and start arresting people for no reason. Why would they do that? Why would they risk getting their soldiers killed to go in there and just randomly arrest people? They're not doing that. They're not randomly arresting people. They're arresting people that they have very good suspicions that they believe are involved in terrorist activity or supporting terrorist activity, like the teenage girl, the TikTok influencer, who they arrested the other day because she literally wrote on social media, "We are going to drink your blood and eat your skulls," about the Israelis. This is a TikTok influencer who got famous in the West Bank for going, when she was a little girl, like 14 years old, walking up to an Israeli soldier and slapping him. And he didn't kill her then. He didn't arrest her then. But she was, she's lionized for doing that. And she apparently thought she could get away with trying to incite violence inside Gaza, inside the West Bank against the Israelis. The number of attacks on Israeli settlers in Judea and Samaria has gone up tremendously since October 7th. With, again, you see people in the West Bank flying Hamas flags. You see people in the West Bank literally getting on television and calling, this is their leadership, calling for a repeat of October 7th. And the 500,000 Israelis who live in there do not have any protection. They can't, most of them don't have guns. More than 150,000 of them have asked for guns, and Israel doesn't have enough guns to give them. All their guns are being used to give to their soldiers. There are some soldiers in there that have beefed up the presence in there, but I'll tell you right now, if several thousand of these angry Muslims, I'm not saying all of the Muslims in the West Bank are jihadis, are extremists, but there's 2.5 million or 3 million of them. So if just a few thousand of those people are extremists, and I guarantee you there are at least that many, and they decide to repeat October 7th in the West Bank, you're going to see a massive slaughter in those villages where Jews live inside Judea and Samaria. And those people, like I've said before, I keep repeating this, those Israelis that live in there are not there illegally. The UN says that they're there illegally, but who cares what the UN thinks? They're completely legal under Israeli law, and newsflash, folks, this is Israel. And so they can live there. They have building permits. They're doing it legally. And if the UN wants to say they're illegal, what are you going to think if the UN comes out tomorrow and says that it's illegal for you to own a gun in the United States? You're going to go like, like, get lost, UN. You don't get to tell us what's legal and illegal in our own country. You don't make the laws here. And so for the UN to say that these settlers are illegal in Judea and Samaria is laughable. And the people there will tell you that. So that is, I want to get to some questions because we've been getting, I've seen some go by, but I haven't been able to get to all of them. If you have questions, send them, and Crutchfield and those guys will send them to me if I can't catch them, because I have a little panel here that shows me the chats, but man, they're going by so fast I can hardly keep up with them. And let's see, rockets, Americans, because the sleeper cells. Yeah, yeah, they do pay for the land that they build on there in Judea and Samaria. Why isn't America sending personal protection guns to those in Israel who need them? That's a great question, Jan. So Israel asked the United States to send weapons, small arms, like, you know, M4s, M16s, whatever, surplus weapons, to Israel, because Israel needs them. And the Biden administration said, well, we'll send some, but you have to promise us that you will not give them to people in the West Bank, to the Jewish settlers in the West Bank specifically. Because the Biden administration is trying to placate the left wing of his party, who supports the Palestinians and the two-state, what they call the two-state solution. The two-state solution is a non-starter. It's not going to happen because that would mean that Israel would have to give up a lot of its land, and it would have to give up, it would have to displace all of those 500,000 Israelis who are living in Judea and Samaria. These are traditionally Jewish lands, okay? And the Palestinians, here's the thing that kills me about this. You realize, you've heard that there is no Muslim country. There are, you know, dozens of Muslim countries around Israel, and none of them have agreed to take Palestinian refugees. None of them have agreed to allow Palestinians to come live in their country. Why? Because the Palestinians are very violent culturally, and they tend to blow things up when they get mad. And they tend to be mad a lot. So nobody wants them. Israel has actually done more to help the Palestinians than any other country on earth. Israel has brought the Palestinians, you know, to their hospitals and given them free medical care. Israel has given them basic services like internet, cell phone, electricity, water. You know, the sewer plant that processes the sewage for Gaza is in Israel. It was built by Israel. Israel literally processes the Palestinians' sewage for them. Okay? Do you think that do you think the Palestinians pay for that? Kind of doubt it. Even now, while they are at war, the Israelis are pumping fresh, clean water into Gaza to give drinking water to the people in the south. Yesterday, they had an aid convoy, I'm told. I haven't seen confirmation of that. They had the aid convoy that went from Israel into Gaza. They are treating Hamas fighters who were wounded on October 7th and captured in Israeli hospitals as we speak. I mean, think about that. Think about that for a minute. Do you think if an Israeli soldier gets wounded in Gaza that he could go to the Shifa hospital and get treated? I don't. It's not likely. So, you know, Am I concerned of a sniper attack while filming on the balcony? No, I'm not. Here in Jerusalem, it is pretty safe. Now, there are Palestinian Arabs here. If I go about 500 yards that way, I'm in the eastern part of Jerusalem, and it's full-on Palestinians. They're Palestinian Arabs over there. If I go into the old city, like I did yesterday, which is just a couple hundred yards from where I'm standing, many of the shopkeepers are Palestinian. The barber that cut my hair the other day was Palestinian, Arab. Used a straight razor to shave my neck. How's that for trust? I did have to say I was a little concerned about that, because those guys, you never know when they're just going to decide that they're going to martyr themselves and take you with them. And but I think it's important to try to extend a hand of trust to these people. I've personally gone down into the marketplace and spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars at the shops of these Palestinian Arabs, because they're hungry. Their kids are hungry. They're hurting right now economically because there's no tourism. Why is there no tourism? Because their brethren, other Palestinian Arabs, decided to kick off on October 7th. And so all the Palestinians are hurting. Did you know that there are tens of thousands of Palestinians who leave the Palestinian-only areas in the West Bank every day and come across into the areas that are administered by Israel to work in factories? And they can make a lot more money doing that than they can working in the West Bank. Those people can't come to work right now because all the crossing points are shut down. All the factories are shut down. Everybody's off fighting the war. I would submit to you that the Palestinians who live in Israel are hurting just as much from a per capita standpoint. I mean, they are hurting very much as well because of what happened, what Hamas did on October 7th. Now, Israelis might be angry at me for saying that, because how dare I say that those people are hurting? Well, they've got families too. They've got little kids too. And I'm not saying that I sympathize as much with them as I do with the people who lost their families, the people who saw loved ones butchered, the people who are now away from their families, off having to go fight in Gaza. But hungry kids are hungry kids. And I feel sorry for hungry kids. And, that's, I think, forgiveness, redemption comes through that kind of forgiveness. And I think that those Arabs hopefully will understand, will come to see how much they are being harmed by their own people, because their own people cannot let go of their hate. They can't forgive. And if they would only learn to love their children more than they hate the Israelis, all of this would end tomorrow. That's all it takes. It just is going to take a little bit of forgiveness, a little bit of just letting bygones be bygones. Let's start fresh from today, and this thing can be all over. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith that that's going to happen anytime soon. All right, so are there any other questions? Somebody had a question that Crutch sent me here, or somebody sent me. Can you give us an update on the situation in Syria? Okay, I did that earlier in the broadcast, but just to give you a quick update. The guys in Syria are under attack, U.S. troops. As we speak, there are missile attacks happening from the Shiite militias that are supported by Iran that are in Iraq and Syria. And they're attacking Syria from Iraq, probably, and also from Syria. The U.S. bases in Deir ez-Zor are very close to the border, just a mile or two, so they could attack them from Iraq fairly easily. That is a very remote area. The U.S. should be able to protect our guys there if we made it a priority to do so, and not just retaliate, but actually kill those guys before they're able to fire on us. or at least shortly after they fire on us. And as one Marine general said, if you attack us, someone else will raise your children. We ought to make good on that promise for those guys over there. Let's see, what else? That was the situation in Syria. Are the historical biblical sites under threat due to the war? Not really. I've been to some of them. If you go over to my podcast, here on YouTube, you can go to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton, and you can follow the stuff that I'm doing kind of behind the scenes. So when I take my little walk or go running every day, I can run from here and go to the Garden of Gethsemane. I can go from here to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or go to the Western Wall, or go to the Garden Tomb if it was open. And so I've been checking out some of these historical sites. The upper room is right there. I can see it from here. And so they're open, most of them. The upper room is closed. The Garden Tomb is closed, but most of the sites are open. And you could come right now as a tourist if you wanted to, and it'd be a great time to come because there's no lines. All those places that are usually very, very crowded, they're not crowded right now. So I don't think they're under threat. Most of those sites are also important to Islam, or at least close to sites that are important to Islam. And so they're not going to shoot a missile at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because they might hit the Dome of the Rock, which is right there next to it. And they're not going to take a chance of destroying one of Islam's most holy sites. So, and the security is pretty tight down there as well, I'll say. With the threat of terrorist attacks rising, what steps can we take at home or while traveling to stay safe from terrorist attacks? Whew, that is a good question, but it's a very, very long answer. So how about this? If you want to go and subscribe to my podcast over at the Hot Zone here on YouTube, I will make a video specifically about that topic, and I'll bring in an expert on that subject to talk about it with me. And we'll do a full half hour or so on what you can do to protect yourself when you're traveling in a dangerous time, when there is a threat from terrorism all over the world. I get these reports all the time from a subscription service I subscribe to that will tell you where it's dangerous to travel right now. And right now there's a worldwide travel alert there is a heightened threat anywhere you go around the world, if you're American or if you're Jewish. And so that is a very long topic. And so let's do a full podcast about that. Just go over to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton here on YouTube. If you want to follow all of the reporting I do, not just on CBN, and read my books, find my movies, find out about my upcoming trips and things like that, you can go to chuckholton.locals.com. That's Chuck, Holton, .locals, LOCALS.com. And you could subscribe there and find out a lot more about what I'm doing. On the topic of the trips that I do, we've been running some tours around that. Thank you. Is that Maturity? We've been running some tours in different places around the world because I have so many people who follow my podcast, see my travels. I go to 25 countries a year, and they go, "Oh man, I would love to carry your suitcases someday, or come, be your camera person or something." So some of the places I go, it's actually possible for you to come along. It's safe enough, and you could come with me. One of those places is Armenia, and we started to invite people to come along with me to Armenia a couple of years ago, and now we've done 7 or 8 tours over there, and they go great. If you think like Armenia, where is that? Well, don't feel bad. Most people don't know where Armenia is, but it's a hidden gem. I'm telling you, Armenia is one of the most beautiful countries on God's green earth. The people there are warm and friendly. The food is amazing. It's inexpensive, and it's safe. And it should be on everybody's bucket list. Like to me, Armenia is better than Paris. It's better than Rome. I mean, there's more history and older history there, and it's Christian history. Armenia is is the world's first Christian country since 301 AD, and they've been Christian longer than like Rome has existed, right? So it's a fascinating place to visit, and we are going to go in June of this coming year, June 6th through the 16th, and you can go to armeniamovie.com and watch a movie that I made about Armenia, if you want to get more information about what it looks like there and what it's like. armeniamovie.com. You can go see that, and at the bottom of that webpage, there's a place you can click on to go find out more about our trip to Armenia. And we've already almost filled the tour this coming June. We're going to have to open up a second set of dates in like March or April now, because the June tour is almost completely booked. We only have maybe 5 or 10 more spaces there. It depends on some people that are on the fence. But bottom line is, I recommend that you go. Hey, thank you, Sharon. That's very kind of you. And follow those things. And I'll do a whole podcast about how to be safe when you're traveling on the road. It is possible to be safe and go wherever you want to go pretty much. Do I have thoughts on this AP freelancer who appears to have been embedded with Hamas on October 7th? Yes, I do have thoughts on that. It's heinous that there were journalists who voluntarily went along with the terrorists and entered Israel illegally, with the terrorists and filmed them committing their atrocities. They then went to work for some of the biggest names in the business, the New York Times, the Washington Post, I think, the Associated Press, CNN. And CNN now, and most of those outlets have come out with, they're saying, we didn't hire them to go and we didn't know ahead of time. And this is a classic bait and switch. This is an absolute bait and switch. These news organizations are saying, we did not know ahead of time that they were going to go and film these guys committing these terror attacks. And so, the fact that we hired them afterwards, we're not responsible for what they did on October 7th. But wait a minute, you bought their footage from October 7th. You paid for it. So in a sense, you hired them. It doesn't matter if it was after the fact. You hired them to go into Israel and go along with these guys and record what they were doing. Now, we've seen this happen in Ukraine. There's this guy, Patrick Lancaster, that has gone in with Russian troops and has been there when they were committing atrocities. And he continues to go there and to report. Look, I've seen things that were untoward happen in my career when I was embedded with troops of various, countries. And if I see something like that, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going to embed with them anymore. I'm going to take my leave and I'm going to get out. It's one thing if you're traveling with some guys and they do something, they commit an atrocity, and, all of a sudden you're there and you go, oh, this is bad. And you yourself denounce what they're doing. It's another thing if you go in with them and wholeheartedly approve of what they're doing. And there's even some evidence that these journalists were carrying hand grenades, carrying weapons, and that they are very close with the men who planned these attacks. So it's obvious that they knew the attacks were going to happen ahead of time, these journalists, and they went in with them. that is an absolute breach of any form of journalistic ethics that you could ever think of. And anybody that says otherwise is just lying. So that's my answer to you there. Really unfortunate. Okay, I think that's it, folks. We're going to have to cut this one off now. Thank you very much for sticking on with us and for putting up with all my shenanigans, trying to get the audio working and stuff. Really sorry about all that. You guys are great. And I will be back again tomorrow. Let's pray for Israel right now. And we'll end on a good note, okay? Here we go. Lord Jesus, it is a great privilege for me to come here and be able to see history in the making. But it's also a horrific, horrific thing to see what's happening to these innocent people. And so, Lord, I just want to, first of all, pray that you would thwart the plans that evil men have to do evil and harm to innocents around them. Whether that's people in Gaza, people in the West Bank, even if it's the IDF, Lord. If there are men in the IDF who are wanting to take vengeance and to torture and commit war crimes, I don't think there are. But if there are, Lord, I pray that you would stop them. You would thwart them. You would love them enough to keep them from committing any kind of atrocities against the people in Gaza. And I pray that Israel would continue to be the most moral fighting force on the face of the planet. And that they would be seen as such, that it would be unmistakable, that their good works would put their enemies to shame. Lord, I pray that you would give them special knowledge of where the hostages are so that they can rescue those hostages and bring them home. I pray that you would reunite those hostages with their loved ones. Father, I pray for the long-term effects of this war, and that the people who have been sorely affected by the trauma of it would cry out to you and would find you sufficient to heal them and to help them get over this. And I pray for the people that are watching right now, that you would remind them to care, that they would not give up, they would not get cold to the atrocities that are happening over here, the tragedies that are going on in the world around them. Thank you for this medium that we have, that they can interact with me and that they can actually donate to help CBN help people who are in need. I pray that many more people, you would send your Holy Spirit right now to the people who are watching, and that you would ignite in them a desire to give sacrificially to help the people who are hurting, whether they give through HaYovel at serveisrael.com, whether they give through the Red Cross or any place else, Lord. I pray that Americans would continue to be the most generous people group on the planet, bar none, and that for that reason, we would be blessed by you. Father, I pray that you would be glorified in what we do in our humble efforts to serve you every day, here in Israel and back at home. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching, and thank you for being a part of this podcast, or this, whatever you call it. I don't know what this is. I'm going to keep doing it. I was supposed to go to Jordan today, but I didn't get to go because it's Shabbat, and I got to the border crossing at 5 minutes too late. They closed the border crossing 3 hours earlier than they said they would because they wanted to go home early. And so when I got there, they had left 5 minutes before. So I missed my flight. I'm going to have to get another one. And that's expensive and frustrating because I really would like to go home and see my lovely wife. And I was very excited to go see her tomorrow. But now I'm going to be stuck here over the weekend. So stay tuned. I guess tomorrow we'll do another one of these lives. And I appreciate all your prayers for me and for my family and for all of us here at CBN. God bless you and good night.